Stream from Dulcimer Crossing. My name is Steve Uhlberg, and in our continuation of our Celtic month, I am excited that I had a viewer question that was asked, and in this theme, and so I'm excited to have a live question that we can address, and so that's what we're going to be doing today: adding modal chords to a modal melody. I'm going to use the hammered dulcimer to demonstrate this first question here, or the first tune. So let me change my orientation here, and I'm going to take a look at the tune "The Red-Haired Boy," which was the one that was asked about. And let me get rid of that cover there. Red-Haired Boy. Oh, that's why you're sitting on top of that. Why would you be doing that? Why would you be doing that? You're supposed to be up here. Okay, gear. Your gear. You need it. It's useful, and it can give you other issues sometimes. Okay, here we go. So this is a song that uses the A scale, starting at 5 below. But it's got a flat 7 at the bottom, the G natural instead of the G sharp. The regular A major scale has a G sharp in it, and I'm using a G natural, which is a half step flat from the regular one I expect. So that's the A part. So one of the things that's a characteristic of this song is that we never use T-do. We never use the regular 7 step of the scale. We use the flatted 7th step of the scale, which is what happens anytime you start on a marked course on a hammered dulcimer and just walk straight up. And that's the reason a lot of us thought that our instrument was broke when we first got it. We might have tried to change the tuning scheme to get it to come up with what we wanted, but anytime you start on a mark, go straight up and down, you're going to get what's called the Mixolydian scale. The Mixolydian scale not only describes the notes in the melody, it also describes that mode name of Mixolydian, also describes the notes that are available to us to choose for chords. So let me share this page for you here, and I believe we have this in the here we go. And I want to share this window. Here we go. Now let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see it a little better. Come on. There we go. These are the usual diatonic chords by mode. And things are going very slow here. I don't know exactly why. Okay. When we are in the Ionian scale, which was that A scale I was looking for, the chords that go with this, because of the steps in the scale, are a 1 major. All the major chords in this chart are red. A 2 and a 3 minor. All the minor chords in this chart are green. Then I've got my 4 major, 5 major, my 6 minor, and then all the purple chords here are diminished, which means they've got a flat 3 and a flat 5. So In a major scale, I expect my first chord is going to be the name of the key we're in. I expect that the fourth chord is going to be my 4 chord. It's going to be major. And my 5 chord is going to be major. And the other ones are going to land as they do. But if you go down through the modal names, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, these are the order of the chords as they show up on a piano keyboard using only white notes, white keys on a piano keyboard, which means we never have the chance to get an accidental, which is similar to the way the hammered and the mountain dulcimer instruments are laid out. I'll demonstrate this on the mountain dulcimer in just a moment. But that means if I assume my 1 is major because I'm in Ionian, I'm going to have an expected result. But the same thing holds true for the Mixolydian mode. And if you're playing with people in a jam session, this is just one of those things to tuck away. If somebody says this is a modal tune, that's usually shorthand for them meaning Mixolydian. That means it's got something different. Our 1 chord is major. That's where it shares something with the Ionian. But our 4 chord is also major. Same. However, here's the contrast. Our 5 chord is minor in the Mixolydian scale. In the Ionian or the major scale, it's a 5 major. But the key signature doesn't let us have a major one here. Like the Ionian, it also has the 6 minor, but then the 7 is where something changes. Now, the other thing about this to notice is that the Roman numerals that I'm using to designate the chords that are not key specific, if they're capitalized, they're major chords. If they're minor, they're lowercase. So you'll notice that the minor has to do with what's going on in the 3rd step of the scale. In a diminished chord, I told you there was a 1, a flat 3, and a flat 5. The flat 5 is the diminished note, but it requires the flat 3 to go with it for it to be a diminished chord. So in this case, now our 3 chord is diminished. And our 7 chord is a whole step away from Do, which is why it's got this. It looks like a B because I don't have the flat symbol in this font. So the lowercase b in this entire chart is standing in for the flat symbol. Okay? And that means if this was A in the Ionian here, A, B minor, C sharp minor, D, E, F sharp minor, and then G sharp diminished. Those would be the chords I would expect in that key. However, this song never uses this note, so it can't use that chord, which is what tells me, oh, I'm going to have a different set of chords that are going to be my default chords for adding to this melody. And this is all prelude for something else. So just, if it's not quite making sense, this is being archived, and you can come back to it. The Mixolydian scale, I have the 1 chord, I have the 4 chord that are major, and I have the flat 7 chord that are major. Now, we're comparing A to A Ionian to A Mixolydian. A Ionian actually has 3 sharps in the key signature, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. A Mixolydian only has 2 sharps in the key signature, F sharp and C sharp, because it has a G natural as we went through the melody. That means my A chord, just like Ionian, is A. My D chord, just like Ionian, is D. But instead of having an E, which is what I expect in the key of A, I'm going to have a G chord because the G major chord is the flat 7 chord of A Mixolydian. Now let's go back. Let's stop the share. And let's go back here. If I'm playing the A chord, there is a D chord. That's that 4 chord we talked about. A was the 1 chord. And then we had the 4 chord. Now we're looking for what we expect to be the 5 chord. And that's the G natural. And so we have a G chord. So while I'm playing an A Ionian, I want A, D, and E. If I'm playing an A Mixolydian, I want A, D, and G. Now, we expect those chords to be what happens in the key of D Ionian. And that's where you can see it's the same key signature, 2 sharps. But because of the song, it starts and ends in a different place, let's go all the way through it and figure out that ending note. Now, normally there's 2 A's and 2 B's, but I'm going to, for the sake of demonstration, now we start on the E. Both of these start on the E. I'm going to that G a lot. I wanted the A. Whoops, that D isn't there. Second time through the B. Now, that is, strictly speaking, the modal way to play this. So, yes, Doug, it's Mixolydian. And what... I'm going to go to my guitar to call out the names of the chords as I'm playing them. Change cameras. Whoops. I got to remember I didn't drop D. Now, sometimes people, because we live in this chromatic time, they'll throw a 5 in there as a quick turnaround. And that's where I'm headed next, because we need to talk about the history of the tunes. These tunes, here is a collection that I got when I was in Scotland, the Patrick MacDonald collection, Highland Vocal Airs, Dances, or Reels of the North Highlands and Western Isles. It was first published, can you see that number there? 1784. Now, this is not from 1784. It's a republication that took place in the year 2000. But it was first published in Edinburgh, 1784. And it has airs. But one of the things you need to note as you look in here, there are different timings. Here's the strathspey. They don't name it that way, but I can tell from the rhythm that it is a strathspey, because there are no chords. It's only melodic notes. Now, in some places like here, you'll notice there has been put in a figured bass kind of an idea, or a tonic center in some way. That isn't the case for all of them, and they tend to be the case for books where they expect people to try to play them on the piano, because they want to appeal to a piano player who's going to need both hands, who may not know how to play without having the written music in front of them. So sometimes an old tune like this that was first played, these are all set up that way. But here's this one, this slow air here. There's only treble in all of these here up here. And the expectation is it would be a melody only kind of piece of music. And if you were going to add anything, you'd be adding bagpipes, which is a drone. So that gets us to the mountain dulcimer, and why some people find that that kind of music really works well on the mountain dulcimer. If I play a single string, I can get my Mixolydian scale by never using the 6.5 fret, by playing from 0 to 7. However, if I'm trying to play the note below Do, which I had just a moment ago when I played on the hammer dulcimer, I don't have it in this tuning. Sometimes people talk about tuning it to all the same pitches, like my Galax dulcimer is, and they'll call that from yes, this is where I'm the questions that are in the comments right now are in the Another Jig Will Do, which is my book from what year did I publish? This one is much later. So this was from 2017, but my original one was from 2007, I believe. This doesn't have, well, let's see if it has it further, because this is the guitar edition. 92. Let's see what I put in here. Oh, you're right. That's right, Jim. Thank you. That was your question. I put the G in the A part and only put the D chord in the B part. That's right. You're right. I was going back and forth between the 1 flat 7, 1 flat 7, and in the B part, flat 7 4 1, flat 7 1, flat 7 4 1, flat 7 1 1 1. Yeah, that's right. So now I understand your question. You have the third printing, Doug? Yeah, of 2015. And in the earlier versions of this, and this is what I'm getting to, on the mountain dulcimer, you don't have the note below Do in line with everything unless you turn up your bass string. Now, in this case, I'm changing to EAD, which is one of Aaron May's favorite tunings. I'm playing from A to A. I never get to this high A because the highest I'll end up going is the high G on this one. And this gives me the flatted 7 below Do. So this is much more like a bagpipe tuning. And actually, the bagpipe would go from because that's eight notes, it might get this one up here. But it's definitely going to have that one down there. Now, in these books, the collections, the written down collections of tunes played modally, there are no chords designated. And so as people added chord type instruments, you know, a harp can play chords. Pipes cannot. You have a drone. That's what you have for your chords. Fiddle can do two strings at the same time, or it can, you set up your fingers and then roll your bow across that, and you can play arpeggios of chords. So it starts to move more in toward that chromatic way of playing. When you get a bouzouki, which is actually a Greek instrument, but was embraced by the Celtic players in later times, the banjo, the plectrum banjo, where you can play some chords. Usually, what you're playing is open fifth chords. They're not committed to majors and minors so much, but people start adding them in as they made sense. And so, let me go to, this is Jerry Silverman put together this collection for Mel Bay in 1991. And here's an example of a Scottish tune. This is a Scottish collection, Dumbarton's Drums. And you can see that there are very clearly chords suggested there. This is a song that starts below Do but ends on Do. Dumbarton's drums, they sound sae bonny. They remind me, oh my Johnny. And if I do this on hammer dulcimer, let's do it right. Dumbarton's throne. I'm going to move the key to G. Dumbarton's throne. They sound so bonny. They remind me, oh my Johnny, what fun delight doth steal upon me when Johnny kneels and kisses me. So it makes sense in an air like that, or more ballady like that, to add some chords. And the chords that seem to make the most sense are the Ionian chords. Just for comparison, I also have, this is Ryan's Mammoth Collection, 1,050 reels. This is put together by Patrick Sky. And you can see again, there are a lot of dots. Everything's very small and close together, and there's only a single line. There's no chord suggested. You have to do you got to do all that work on your own. What's interesting to me as I'm looking at this, O'Neill's 1001, both of these are Ryan's Mammoth and O'Neill's are two of the ones that get talked about most. And O'Neill's is the dance music of Ireland. It was originally published, they didn't use the same publication stuff as we do today, because this was all first published way before the conventions that we use now. This is referring to things that were printed in 1797, 1825, and here actually a quote. During the 18th century, a taste for elaboration and florid settings was developed by both Scotch and Irish. And so there was a lot of competition to add to the tunes to make them more rich and exciting and to make them a little bit different than what they were before, perhaps. Here's the one we did last week in our jam. Off She Goes. Bum 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 ba ba da da dum ba bum ba bum ba ba da da dum bum ba bum ba ba da da dum ba da 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 da. So several in here are in the Ionian mode. I was not able to find in these two collections Red Haired Boy. That was one of the things I was looking for. I did not find it in either of these, nor did I find it under the name Little Beggar Man. A lot of these tunes. Oh, I'm going to go back and grab that first one for a minute. But one of the instructions here that is talked about in this one is, let's see if you can see. You can see there's a tune name there. Let's say it's. Let me look at it. Connacht Ranger. And then it says C, and it gives you a number to look for. And when you look at that number, Connacht Ranger C573. And so I'm looking not for pages, but I'm looking for tune 573. And it says here it's the Fermoy Lasses. So they have more than one name. And I know that listening or hearing, oh shoot, I can see him now. Wonderful fiddler, Irish fiddler, Patrick Burke, play. He would say, "Here's a set of reels I learned from a fiddler in Cork." And one of the things that I noticed in this book, this old collection of airs, is where did I find it? Here it is. Here's one. North Highland reels or country dances by number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is one of the reasons that things it gets confusing when you start doing this research, is because you can't you get your research materials and then you can't assume that there is any tabula rasa. This is the one, we can always depend on this. There is no paper pope there is no pope or paper pope for traditional music. It's a living tradition. And that doesn't mean we can just willy-nilly go do what we want with things. The tunes live and they've been passed on for generations. And people do exciting new things with tunes, and I'm not opposed to that in the least. I am opposed to creating the new thing and then calling it traditional and being unwilling to budge when you're faced with other evidence. So this is my confession. I put the E in there because I heard people playing that, but I don't think it belongs in the song, that quick E chord, that 5 thing, even though it's common in a lot of other songs we play. So it is in there in the book you have, Doug, with the 5 chord going into the A. And by the time, and I'd learned differently, so that when I got to the guitar version here, I took that out. I sometimes say it's my job to contribute to more confusion and misinformation in the world, and this would, in that case, fit into that, except I'm trying to correct it here. Now, let's go back for a minute, because we don't have much time, but I do, oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to share my screen again to say in our diatonic chords description here, in the Celtic tradition, Dorian is the most common minor that shows up. So I just want to make a mention of the chords that are typically present. So like Road to Lisdoon Varna, bum ba dum ba dum ba dum bum ba da 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 dum ba da da. Here we go. D, E minor, ba bum, ba bum, ba ba. D, 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 E minor, bum, ba dum, ba da. D, 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 E minor. Because we usually do this in Dorian of E. Da 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 da. And then we go to the A, E, F sharp, G, A, major, ba ba da da da, E minor, E minor, D D D D D D D D D D D. Yeah, sorry, I'm saying D D. E minor, D D D chord, da da da, A, E minor. And sometimes instead of this, we'll get substituted with B minor in some of those songs. In our Leap Forward or in Musical Understanding year-long course that Aaron May and I hosted in 2020, we had a wonderful class by Karen Ashbrook who loves to focus on these modes, partly for her work with music for healings and transition, healing in transitions, but also because she loves Celtic music, and she was talking about the Dorian minor showing up so often in Celtic music. And in the live events archive, you can see her discussion about that at Dulcimer Crossing. So let's close that so we stop sharing. There we go. And just say thank you for joining with us. I do want to share the new live stream archive that we have. Let's go to Window. Here we are. If you are a DIY member of Dulcimer Crossing, this is the version you will see when you click on the live stream archive, where you can see a selection of some of we've got 150 some here. You can see a selection, and if it's fully in bold print, you can click on that to watch that lesson as a preview of what it is. These other ones that have the lock symbol by that and don't have, they're grayed out. If you try to click on that, it's not going to let you do it, but it is going to give you the option to upgrade to the workshop level. And if you're already DIY, it's only $25 more in order to have access to that. But this lets you see, if I go back here, we have everything grouped under learning, under music theory, skills and techniques, performing, technical considerations, tools, genre, live jams, we'll keep adding those, tune time, and instrument specific kind of things. And that we have, I think we have 70 in here so far. We have about half of them, something like that. And we're going to be continuing to add them. But let's stop sharing that and just say farewell until next time. And thank you for your question, Jim. I hope that brought some clarity and not just more confusion. I know that you're someone who digs in deep and does a lot of comparison. And, if there was a hard and fast rule we could use all the time, it wouldn't be folk music. There are some principles we can adhere to, and even if other people disagree with us, we can stick with them. But it makes for interesting conversations after we played the tune, right? And that's why we toast after. Sláinte, everyone.